Hello, my name's Janine. I work here at the library. Today I'm going to teach you how to make a paper bead. They're pretty tiny. All you really need is a piece of paper, whether that's from an old magazine or just a piece of paper you have lying around. I used an old magazine here, that's why you're getting all kinds of different colors. You need a pencil, scissors, a small paintbrush, glue stick, and then a little bit of Mod Podge, or even I've seen people say you can use clear nail polish, any way to kind of seal this, and then a toothpick. So let's get started. I've got a few here that I started. I was gonna make a bracelet, so I have a magazine here that we removed from the library's collection. I do recommend, if you're going to use a magazine or a newspaper, to find one that has lots of bright colors and lovely pictures. So this one's perfect. It's sort of low on text and actually low on people's faces. So I would recommend, depending on what kind of outcome you're hoping for as far as like the colors of the bead, just keep that in mind. So I found this page. It's got a lot of different bright colors. As I roll the bead up, because each bead is going to be made out of long strips of paper, you want to think about all the different colors that are going to be a part of that. So we'll start here. I'm going to cut this page out of the magazine. And you can kind of do it however you want. I think I'm just going to try and rip it gently. Won't be a perfect edge, but I've got a nice straight edge on the outside. Okay. So, ooh, even the back is kind of nice too. You get a little bit of text. But you want to think about, like, when you're rolling, I kind of like this one. It has really no words on it. It's just lots of colors. So this is what I'm going to use. So let me show you how to make the markings. So what I've made here, there's different shapes of beads that you can make. These are oval. So it's basically where you're going to cut out a long isosceles triangle, and then you roll from the flat bottom up to the point. It might be a little hard to see here, but depending on the shape that you cut out, you'll get a different shape of bead. So if you just do long, straight, rectangular ones, you're just going to get a rectangular cylinder. You can do round ones. I'll post a picture on the video that'll kind of show you a few different shapes, and you could just try whatever you want. So we've got our magazine sheet. Get your ruler. You could use a pencil. Just for the sake of the video, I'm going to use a black Sharpie so that you can see the lines more clearly. Just whatever you can use to make it easier for you to see, so when you go to cut the strips. Now I'm going to turn this around. I'm going to work from my nice straight edge out. And you could even just simply, trim this so you have a nice straight edge. I'll go ahead and do that. I'm just going to... So for a bracelet, I'm thinking I need about, so this size bead is about a little bit over an inch. Depending on the size of your wrist, you'll have to cut out. I've got at least 6. I was going to do maybe a few more. Okay, so perfect. Now what you're going to do is, you can be as precise or freewheeling as you want. I think the more precise you are, the more uniform your beads are going to be. So the pattern that I found actually uses millimeters. You can use inches if you want. You just want to kind of stick with whatever measurement you use. So for this size bead, which is a little over an inch, you want to do 30 millimeters. So what you're going to do is you're going to line up the edge of your paper with the 0, and then you're going to make little hash marks for every 30 millimeters. Okay. And I just have a little extra on the end, so that probably won't work. And then you're gonna flip your paper around. So now remember we started on this end, so we want to measure from this side. In order to make the isosceles triangle, you don't want to start 30 in, because then you're just going to have that cylinder tube. So you want it to be offset a little bit. So we're going to divide that number in half. So 15 millimeters, we're going to measure in just for the first mark. So hopefully you can see that there. So I just did 15, and now from the 15 millimeter mark, I'm going to mark every 30 all the way across. I'm just a little short. Okay, next step. So now we have our hash marks at either end. We're going to draw our long isosceles triangles. So we're going to match them up. So we'll start with that first one and then the first one here. So we'll use the corner. Try to get it as accurate as you can. And then we'll just keep going. So kind of zigzag your way across. So I move the top, then I move the bottom. And now I'm going to move the top. Okay. Got all my isosceles triangles marked up, ready to cut out. So each one of these triangles can be a bead. So let's see it. And obviously the one on the end, it's not quite a full bead. You could roll the bead, it'll be a different shape than the rest of them. Same with the first one here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12. So perfect. That's more than enough for a bracelet if that's what you're going for. And now you're just going to cut out the triangles. Just cut on those lines. So you can just use scissors for this. You can also use a rotary paper cutter if you have one of those. You could also use a paper trimmer if you have one of those. The rotary cutter and the paper trimmer will probably be a lot more accurate. You know, being accurate is important. As you roll them up, you'll just get more even beads. It's not super critical. It sort of depends on how perfect you want your bead to turn out. All right, so that's one bead. I'm gonna cut out a few more and then I'll show you how to roll them up. Okay, that's, I think, enough. Obviously, depending on how many you want to make, you cut them all out. So I'm just going to set this aside for now. We've got all our beads, our shapes cut out, ready to go. You know, I realized as I'm looking at this, I sort of did a oops. So when you're tracing your image, if you use like a really defined marker or something, you make sure you trace actually on the back side, because whatever you're going to roll up, you're going to see that edge. So I don't really mind that has like that black Sharpie line on the outside. It might actually make it look a little interesting. So we're just gonna go with it. But if you don't want the marker on the outside, be sure to do your tracings on the back side of whatever design or picture that you choose. Okay, so you can only do one at a time. We'll start with this one. Next, what you'll need is a toothpick. Everybody's got those around the house. I did include some in the kit for the folks that are using the kits. And the toothpick is merely just a way to help you roll and hold onto the bead as you glue. So you want to protect your work surface. I've just got a plain piece of paper here as I glue. You can really use any kind of glue. I've found that a glue stick is the least messy. You certainly can just use regular Elmer's glue, maybe take a Q-tip or something like that, because you really don't need a lot of glue. Okay, so we're gonna flip over. This is obviously the wrong side of the bead. I'm gonna roll it up this way. So whichever side you want on your outside, you want that on the bottom. So before you put any glue down, you're gonna take your toothpick and you're gonna start at the widest end and work up towards the tiniest part. I kind of fold it over the toothpick and I kind of train it a little bit before I do any glue. So I kind of roll it up a little bit here. And I use and you want to try and make it as even as possible, otherwise your bead won't be nicely oval. It'll sort of veer to one side. So you want to take it slow. So that's good. I'm gonna roll it back a little bit, and then I'm just gonna put glue on little sections. You don't need to put glue on the whole strip. You could do about that much, roll it up, roll it a little bit, put a little bit more glue, and then obviously the very end part, you definitely want glue all the way to the end. So let's go for that. And the paper is just merely to protect your work surface because the glue stick kind of, as the paper gets nearer, it's gonna get everywhere. So I'm gonna do it pretty close. You obviously don't want it too close because you don't wanna glue the toothpick and I'm gonna reach for my thing here, excuse me. You don't wanna glue the toothpick to the bead itself. You wanna be able to like move it through. So this is one that I made earlier. I was letting it dry on the toothpick. You can kind of see that it easily glides on and off. So if you put your glue too close to the toothpick, you're gonna have a hard time getting it out. Okay, so let's go ahead and do some gluing and some rolling. So you can see just like a very small amount. And the beginning is very important. You wanna try and roll it as evenly as possible. And depending on how snug you want the bead, you know, sort of just depends. And I will say practice. It took me quite a few beads to kind of get the hang of it, so don't despair if the first one looks terrible, because mine did. So I'm just gonna roll it, like I said, trying to keep it even on both sides, like rolling at the same rate. I do kind of pinch the sides as I roll, and then you'll just notice when you get to a no glue area, you can put it back down, put a little bit more glue on there. I'll pick it back up and we'll keep rolling. And basically you're just gonna do that till you get to the end. So, all right, do a little bit more. And if you feel like it's not rolling evenly, just gently unroll it. You don't want to wait too long because the glue will start to stick. So, and just take it easy. There's no rush. You can see mine's feels a little crooked. We're gonna keep going. Just gonna go with it. This is interesting. I feel like we're seeing more of the outline of my triangles, and it's mostly white. All my little purple flowers. Okay, so last bit, you want to make sure you get glue all the way to that very edge so that it glues down. And then we're just going to take it easy all the way through and glue that all the way down. that's it. That's one oval bead. So you can see my bead is not sticking. So, and then just give that a couple minutes to kind of set up, let the glue stick, do its thing. So I'm going to put that to the side. The next step I'm going to show you is actually how to seal the bead. So that's the basics as far as making the bead itself. Using just a little bit of the glue stick or glue or whatever you have on hand, rolling it around. I did read somewhere that if you rolled it over like a coffee straw, you could just actually you would actually glue it to the coffee straw and then you'd clip the edges off and then you'd have a really firm center for your bead. These are pretty sturdy once you seal them with 2 coats of Mod Podge. If you were to push really hard on the edge, you could crush them. They are paper, but the seal does help kind of harden them overall. So let's move on to the next step. I'm going to let that one dry. I'm just going to set it to the side. And we're going to work on the sealing process. So I've got dishwasher safe Mod Podge. I thought maybe it would be like if you were wearing a necklace or a bracelet or washing your hands or caught in the rain, this would be a little bit better. Not all Mod Podge is waterproof. So, and like I said, I read online someone used clear nail polish. I don't know how effective that is or if that yellows or not. I feel like Mod Podge is a pretty safe bet. So for the Mod Podge part, you just need, a small paintbrush, a tiny amount of Mod Podge, and you're going to keep it on that toothpick because what you're going to do next is, I've got a styrofoam plate here. You could also use like a egg carton because once you put the Mod Podge all the way around, you don't want to set it on a plate or a table because it's going to stick to whatever surface. So the toothpick kind of helps anchor it, and you can just punch it into the side of a plate or egg carton, and then it's going to kind of, it's hard to see. It's not going to touch anywhere. So it's going to get 360 air circulation so that it could dry. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to shake up the Mod Podge. And you need the smallest amount, really not much on your brush, if you can see that. And I recommend doing 2 coats. Mod Podge dries relatively quickly, so you could, and honestly, I do recommend is putting a coat of Mod Podge, stick it on there. You can roll another bead, so you can kind of get like a whole process going. So I'm just gonna gently coat the edge. Basically, you just don't want it to unravel. Now, also, you don't want to paint the Mod Podge onto the toothpick. You really want to just get as close as you can to the edge without going over, because the Mod Podge is sort of like a glue also, and you will end up gluing your bead right to the toothpick. So just, and a very light coat. You don't need too much of a heavy hand. Just make sure you get all the edges. And I'm kind of using, you can see I'm kind of using my fingers at the bottom to kind of just hold it in place because it does move around on the toothpick a little bit, so just take it easy. When you feel like it's coated well, you can just set it to dry and then wait for the second coat. So I think that's pretty good. I also like to test and make sure I didn't accidentally glue it. So I'm going to put that one to the side. I'm just going to poke it here into the side of the, and let it dry. And I've got another one here. So just quickly again, painting that Mod Podge right on that bead. Okay, I'm gonna let those guys dry. So, if you're picking up a craft kit, in each kit, it might be hard to see. I included 12 inches of, it's like an elastic jewelry string. So it would be more than enough to do a bracelet for any size, because you can just trim it to where you need it. The great thing about the elastic jewelry string is that you can just tie it in a double knot, and that's it. And then it, you know, it's relatively easy to string the beads. So I've got my beads here, and you're just gonna string them along, push it through until you see it come out the other side here. And then, yeah, just string as many beads as will fit for your size wrist, or if you're gifting it for somebody. So I've got my 2 beads here. Like I said, just a double knot on that string, and then you'd have, the nice thing is it'll just be like an elastic, so it's stretchy, so you can just stretch it to get off the wrist, so you can make it fit exactly right. That's paper bead making. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy.